This is the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, hosted by David Charlton, and you're listening to this podcast to help you build your own mental toughness, or so that you can support other people or your clients better. Either way, you will learn more about developing this plastic personality trait that all but guarantees that you will perform better and lead a more prosperous life. Welcome to the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, where today I'm joined by someone I've known for many years and someone I've worked alongside from time to time and learned a great deal from, Polly Brennan. This episode is centered around mental health, where we dig into helpful strategies to help you manage your own mental health. We also chat about Polly's interpretation of mental fitness and her adventurous spirit. Enjoy listening. So then, Polly, it's been a while since we've caught up. And it's fantastic to have you on the show. Would you like to just tell the listeners a little bit more about your background and your passion for mental health and mental fitness?
Absolutely. It's fabulous to be here. It's great to see you again, David Charlton. And I'm glad that we're here talking about this today. It's something for all of us. It's for anyone and everyone. So my name is Polly Brennan. I am the mental fitness coach and I'm an occupational therapist, and I have worked for many, many years in the NHS in severe and enduring mental illness, and I've ran a coaching business around mental fitness for coming on 7 years now, which is a long, long time. Time flies. And how can I describe myself? I'd say I'm stubbornly or perhaps delusionally optimistic. I'm a ambassador for adventure, and I think that mental health and well-being can be a health adventure. So there's the connection there. What else can I tell you about myself? I've worked with people from all walks of life, and I love that. And like yourself, I've learned so much from the people that I've helped and coached along the way. And I guess that everything that we learn, everyone we meet is our teacher and our student. So I've learned so much along the way from people that I've helped, and also, they benefited from working alongside me too.
Yeah, you never stop learning, do you? Whether you're 21, 41, 51, 61.
Absolutely. Every day's a school day. Every day's a school day. Yeah.
Well, definitely. And yeah, you mentioned the word adventure there. Tell me more about adventure and, mental health, where that all ties in together.
Absolutely. So when I was becoming a coach and I was trying to understand what kind of coach I was going to become, I did a bit of an exercise where I tried to sort of tell my story. I sort of spent some time thinking, what's the story of Polly Brennan? What's the story of my life? And as I kind of went through different kind of pivotal points in life and described and explored what those moments taught me, I realised that the theme that just emerged all the time was adventure. And, some of those things were about going on adventures and doing exciting outdoor activities, being on my bike, being in the woods, kayaking, climbing, all those sorts of things, visiting countries, visiting places. But I also realised that as I told my story, I was describing my life as an adventure. So I guess the meaning I took from that was that our life can be an adventure, and our job in life is to decide what adventure means to you, and it can mean anything at all, anything that you're passionate about, that you love, things you want to experience in your life, regardless of what it is, can be your adventure. And secondly, you can take an adventurous approach to how you live life. You can take a curious and creative and adventurous approach to how you do anything. So I think adventure can be that golden thread that you weave into your life, and that you can choose how to show up, and you can choose what directions and routes and decisions that you take, and you can choose how you do everyday life. Simple everyday life can be your adventure. You can take an adventurous approach. So that's kind of what adventure means to me. What does adventure mean to you?
So yeah, adventure to me, yeah, well, I'm like you. I love exploring, whether it's hiking up a hill, going out on a run. Thinking back to the COVID times when we were locked down and we couldn't really do a great deal. An adventure to me then was going on a different run on a different route that I'd never done at any time, and I tried to find a way to be able to do that. I came across runs 2 or 3 miles away from my place, which I didn't even know existed. What else is an adventure? Yeah, traveling like yourself, very much the explorer. And as I explained before we recorded there, we got a touring caravan last year, and I absolutely love that. Just being able to go away for the weekend and get away from everything.
Wonderful. It's exciting, isn't it, just to ask that question and to think about it. And for your listeners today, ask yourself that question: what does adventure mean to me? There's no right or wrong answer, but it's exciting when you start to imagine what it is you love, what gets you excited, what gets you really wanting to get out of bed in the day. And we can actually all have that. And I think it's our job to decide not if, but how to have that. I have a fabulous friend called John. John's experienced a lot in his life, and he always reminds me that we're here for a good time, not for a long time. And I like to remember that, because what it focuses me on is that right now matters. We all have best hopes for our future and things we'd like to have in the future. And we might feel held back because of the kids or the job or finances. But I think we can bring adventure into our everyday lives. I loved your description there about how COVID came along and then we started to find adventure in the ordinary. So we stopped planning the big trips, the big adventures, and we started to look at what was around us in our lives. Where could we just make an everyday experience more fun? Where could we just be more spontaneous, explore someone new? And did you notice that we did start to enjoy more of like the environments that were around about us, or we had fun doing ordinary things? And that's a wonderful thing, because it reminds us that it can be as simple as that.
Yeah, it's very easy to get caught up in the glorious, the what ifs. If we go here, go there, go somewhere else. And yeah, just as you say, on your doorstep, and the things that you already have in your life, you can build upon.
Absolutely. Adventures in the ordinary, or even just adventures on a shoestring. If you don't have a lot of money to go off and, spend, your precious resources on things, you can create adventurous moments.
Definitely. And one thing as well, I want to take you back a few minutes. You mentioned, I think, where you talked about like an adventurous approach to... It was an adventurous approach to the way you go about your life and your attitude, in effect. I think what I took from it was in mental toughness and the 4 C's framework, you've got something called risk orientation. And so many people play it safe. They get very, very comfortable. So I can see the sort of overlap there where, let's go out there and take some risks.
Absolutely. You introduced the 4 C's model to me, actually, David Charlton, and it really enhanced my development and my learning around the skills and the knowledge I already had in mental health. It really added something extra. So, and I've never really thanked you for that, but it's a really wonderful model. So thank you for contributing to my learning. As we say, the coach needs a coach, and every day's a school day. And so I absolutely agree. We do, in terms of our performance, in terms of our productivity, we like predictability. We like comfort. It's hard to choose courage over comfort sometimes. We like to be able to predict outcomes, and we can get held back by fear. So I think often we do play it safe in life. And I guess we want to take calculated risks, don't we? We want to encourage people to, get in the fast gear and get in the fast lane some of the time. And we want to encourage people to use maybe those adrenaline spikes to drive us forward. We want to be courageous and learn new things about ourselves from that. So I guess there's an element of taking calculated risks. And knowing, having some element of, contingency planning and knowing what something might involve and making informed decisions.
Yeah, most definitely. I suppose, again, we are rewinding back to COVID, the type of person who ended up, I'm not going to say thriving in COVID times, because I think it was difficult for everybody, but certainly the person who took control of that situation likely would have taken some risks and would have made some changes, as opposed to just being comfortable and then going on to struggle and then sort of drown, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's something about the Just Right challenge as well, isn't there? When people are thinking about taking the leap or trying something new, if you create a challenge or you take a risk that's kind of low risk or low challenge, then your satisfaction with that challenge or that activity or that goal might be low. But if you take too big a stretch and it's too uncomfortable, then sometimes it can create so much fear and anxiety and discomfort that actually it doesn't turn out to be a positive experience. So I think there's something about finding, when it comes to sort of taking risks, there's something about the Just Right challenge and really getting that right. And there's no one size fits all. It's about, what does the Just Right challenge look like for you? And that's our mission.
Definitely. I think you've hit on something there as well. When we think about goal setting, people don't often think about actually like stretch goals, do they? And what they can actually do in the next month just to take them outside of their comfort zone, to, as we say, stretch them. And that again can be a useful little way to go about things.
I often talk to people about the skill to challenge ratio. 4%, stretch yourself 4%, and little by little, a little can become a lot.
Yeah, massively. So I'm going to take you back now to this mental fitness. So in your words, how do you define mental fitness?
Great question. So I mentioned to you earlier that my background experience is working in mental health services, and that was secondary care. So that's people with severe and enduring mental illness, which I did for many, many years. And I guess if you were almost to imagine a sort of a mental health scale, and you were imagining that at one end you had 0 and then you had the other end 10. And if we were to think about zeros being when that really difficult and uncomfortable place that some of my patients and clients have been when they've been very unwell, when you can't get out of bed and you can't perform your everyday roles, it's a really unpleasant place to be. And yeah, anyone can hit rock bottom. And, really, this is something I don't wish for anyone, but it can happen to anyone. No one has immunity. And then if you imagine the other end of that scale, and we think about, I guess I'd call that mental wealth. And if you think about the idea of, if you were, thriving, loving life, showing up and being who you want to be, with a mindset that's supporting you, being able to perform and achieve your goals, happiness, health, wealth, who doesn't want to be there? Everybody wants to be there, and we're all striving towards being the best we can. I often ask people, on that scale, say if we called it 0 to 10, I often start off by asking people, where do you think you are on that scale right now? And I never ask people, I'm not asking you to say that out loud, but for people listening, just have a little bit of a think. 5's the midway point, but where are you sitting? Are you sitting above 5? Is that comfortable? Is where you're at comfortable right now? And, if not, it's something that we can actually take control of. We can improve our mental health. And I guess the way I describe mental fitness is it's kind of like the workout that you do that takes you from where you are at on that mental health scale to where you want to be. And of course, it doesn't just happen. It's a little bit like we understand physical fitness well. We know that we want to strengthen our muscles. We want to have a strong heart. We want our organs to support us. So we understand that concept really, really well. And when I ask people, like, how many of you look after your physical health, I would say that usually more than half of people will say yes. They're maybe they've got a gym subscription, or they work out, or they think about their food intake, or they do something that helps them move more and be healthy. But actually, I then ask people, like, what do you do to take care of your mental fitness muscles? And this is where mental fitness comes in. because it's not rocket science. I always say to people, I'm not an expert of you. I can't predict. I'd love to be able to write a little Polly prescription and tell people what to do as if it was like a one size fits all, but we're individuals. And so what that really means is that the solutions for you, the strategies that are going to work best for you, the habits that you need are going to be very different to someone else. And, a coach, a physical fitness coach, anyone can give advice around health, but what a coach does is, I guess a coach helps people to really work out and understand the workout they need and then consolidate those skills and implement them and make them part of everyday life. So I guess what I say to people is mental fitness is like that workout you do that strengthens your resilience muscles and keeps you on top of your game. And it's one of those things where you and I both know as coaches that it's little by little, it's usually small habits, it's strategies that we learn that just hit the spot. It's everyday things that keep us, that maintain us. And it's almost a little bit like little by little, if we invest in ourselves and invest in those habits, then what we do is we create mental wealth, really, a little bit like investing money in the bank, and little by little our money accumulates for us. So it's usually simple everyday things. And the first thing I love to do with people is to help them sit down and work out where their mental health is, where they're at on that scale, and what do they already do that supports them. Because, we've all been through life experiences, we've all faced tough stuff, and each of us walking around already have our little invisible kit bag with tools and strategies that we've learned along the way. So we all have that already. So I think that as a coach, my job is to help people uncover what they've already got, what already works, and then look at and what else.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to go back to the 4 C's framework. So in there, you've got an element called life control, which essentially is having a can-do attitude towards life. And really the way you just describe that as a coach, as a psychologist, your role really is to bring back that sense of control, isn't it? So you're
yes.
moving them from helpless, surviving, and they're not ideally on to achieving and thriving.
Absolutely. That reminds me of 2 elements of, I guess one of the things I did is I've worked with people from all walks of life, and I've learned a lot, as I said, from those people. Nobody, it doesn't matter how successful, clever, wealthy, it doesn't matter what your socio-ethnic group is, everyone has mental health, and we all, at the end of the day, put our trouser legs on one leg at a time. We're all the same. But I have learned a lot from the characteristics of people who have really thrived and have mental strength and fitness, mental toughness as well, that you might say. And I've understood what qualities they have. And 2 of the things that you've tuned into that are really, really important are the narrative that you have. So, in any situation, and you and I were talking about this before we started recording, when events happen in life, you have an opportunity to reframe your experiences in order to create a powerful story about any situation that you've been in and what events can mean about you. And these stories we carry around with us all the time. And so when it comes to, as you talked about control, life control, we have the ability to think about any situation we're in and to sort of choose a story that will support us with the view that we can actually take control or that we can influence things in some way. And we know that if we focus on what we can control, then we can take action. And we know how important that is. And the other thing that you talked about there, or you've prompted me, David Charlton, is to think about mindset and how, our narratives fuel our mindset. And, the lenses through which we view the world will give us a landscape around us that will either help us achieve things we want or not. So we have to try on a mindset that strengthens a view that helps us believe that things are possible and that we can have control.
Massively. And really in the mindset bit there, I suppose it's seeing situations as learning opportunities, isn't it? And not getting yourself too down and letting that story and the perspective get really, really clouded.
Absolutely. When my first experience ever of coaching was as a coachee. So many, many years ago, I went to see a life coach because of events in my life that were really affecting my mental health. And I needed some help with it. And, I'll tell you this, the coach needs a coach. And I still have coaching to this day because it's how we grow and it's how we learn. And so one of the things that happened was I told this story. I guess it was a victim story, and it was I'm really upset and distressed story. And I told this story, and the first thing that she said to me was, okay, so how's the story working out for you? And I have to admit, it sort of took my breath away to start with, because it wasn't a story, it was the facts. It was the facts, it was the truth. But what I realised was what she was telling me was that I could actually choose a more empowering story, and that it would change how I felt, thought and behaved. And so what she said to me is, how's this story working out for you? And of course it was rubbish. So the next question was, would you like a new story? Would you like help to create a new story? And it was probably one of the most powerful things that I did, because it taught me that I could look at things in lots of different ways and choose a version, a stormy draft or a empowering draft, and use it to help me go forward. And that's exactly what happened. But it's quite powerful, isn't it, when you think a bit about the narratives that we carry. Sometimes these are from, it's old stuff from childhood. It's things that adults told us. It's things other people have told us. It's stories we've made up. It's how we've interpreted things. So it's quite powerful if you just think about nothing else, to think about, wow, you can change the way you look at things, and that can, if you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at can change. It's quite powerful.
No, massively. Yeah, what you've said there it's hugely powerful. When I think about like my work, when I'm helping an athlete who's maybe, let's think, say they've got some sort of fear where they're frightened because people are judging them an awful lot, and I'll just try and help them to think about what the self-talk, what that inner dialogue's like, and then you really are just preying on this emotional flexibility and looking at a whole range of different ways. So there's certainly similarities, which gets me to shift on now to the relationship between what mental fitness, mental health, and performance.
I love that question. So this is a great question to ask an occupational therapist, because my role for 26 years actually was, if we think about our everyday, everything we do in a day is our occupation. Any activity we do occupies our time, and it's there for our occupation. And so, self-care, leisure, our roles, these are all our occupations. And so, the role I've had for many, many years has been to be helping people at the point where their mental health has suffered to the extent that they can't function in their everyday lives. And it's a really interesting subject. It's an important subject for us all. And it's my belief that mental fitness, mental health, mental wealth, and performance are completely connected. And they're dependent upon each other. They're codependent, because, we all know that when we feel good about ourselves in our life and we feel physically and mentally healthy, we can achieve more. And we also know, if you can think of a time where perhaps you were incapacitated, there was some research done actually. It was students, and they were taken out of their meaningful roles. They were taken away and they were put in a room. Now, I can't remember if it was 24 or 48 hours, and it's an old piece of research because I've been telling this story for years. And they were removed from their normal occupations, and they were removed from the opportunities to do everyday things they normally do. And within a certain period of time, they started to exhibit symptoms in the deprivation of activity that were paramount to people with severe mental illness. In fact, some of them were beginning to develop some sort of signs of psychosis, or that was completely connected to deprivation. So this is a really old study, but what it reminded me is that our productivity and our health are connected very, very closely. The people I've helped in my NHS role have been people that something's got in the way of their productivity, and as a result, they've had mental health problems secondary to that. And if you think about like barriers, so I've been working this year with children, and I've been taking my mental fitness coaching system into primary schools, and the last module we've just completed was all about taking action. So it was actually connected to this theme. And we looked at what are the barriers to productivity for people in performance? What stops people performing? And, kids are, such a source of wisdom, absolutely incredible. And they, we explored things like some people find it hard to perform because they don't have a clear plan. Sometimes people find it hard to perform because they don't know how to get started, or they start but they can't stay focused. Or sometimes it's that they don't have the confidence, or maybe they don't have the skills. So you might actually really want something but not have the performance capacity. Or maybe you actually have the skills but you don't have the self-belief. Mindset plays a big part in that. So, and stamina. So do you have the physical and mental stamina? Are you really, really good at starting tasks and projects off, but then you don't complete? Maybe people get scared towards the end, especially when they're onto something. And it's often when they've done the hard graft and they're at the point where everything matters all of a sudden. They're coming to that peak point where, everything they've worked for is coming to fruition. People get scared and pull back and don't see things through. But imposter syndrome kicks in. And so there's loads and loads of reasons, lots of barriers to productivity. But when people are being productive and performing and being their best, that's when we're absolutely shining, and that's when we're absolutely thriving mentally. So these things are completely connected, and it can be the chicken and egg. Is your mental health affecting your performance? Is your performance affecting your mental health? And it's a really interesting subject.
Yeah, and some of the things you've touched on there, the fears, confidence, strategy, planning, stamina. The good thing is, for anybody who's listening, you can actually do something about all of those things. Yes. They're under your control. And I suppose the way I see it, when people are distracted, when they do have this noise going on in their head, it's that they're unable to find the zone, if you like, in that sporting term where you've got one thing on your mind and one thing only, and yes. The mind is very quiet.
Yes.
But yeah, there's just so much you can do to help people.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I guess what you and I do in our roles, what we're really passionate about more than anything, we've got a skill set that allows us to help people. But what we actually want to do is we want to train people up to become their own coaches. We want to empower people so as they go away and they know they can have this for themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly from my side, when you're working with the athlete, the sports person, I can't swing the golf club, I can't kick the football or anything in that 90 minutes or 4 hours when they're performing. So that they have to learn the tools, otherwise, they might as well go home.
And it's like that driving sort of lesson analogy, isn't it? What we do with people when we're by their side or sitting next to them, whatever metaphor, in the passenger seat or the driving seat. Or while we're walking with someone on that painful journey towards, overcoming something or striving for something, we help them create the strategies, and we help them uncover actually their own capability that's within them to do it. Because we don't have a magic wand and we don't give people something they don't have already. We really help them uncover what they've got, and then we help them hone and tweak it to make it even more. But there comes that point, doesn't there, where it's like, our work's done and our job isn't to enable people by being by their side and saying, you'll be okay if you have me. Our job's to empower people and say, you've got this, you're going to be okay. And so it's the bit where we walk away and, we say, we prepare people for that bit where you've got this and you can be your own coach. And we help people really tune in and refine what it is that they've got, what skills, what strategies they're going to apply on their own. And a bit like when you get that certificate that you passed your driving test, we walk away and we know people have got it and they can do that for themselves. And, it's a privilege to get to walk side by side with people on that journey to strive and to become the best at whatever it is they want to achieve.
Yeah, and it is so nice to see the smile on the face when they have made those little improvements along the way.
Yeah. Little by little, a little becomes a lot, doesn't it? So it's just, sometimes it's little small shifts and changes that just accumulate to become quite powerful.
Yeah, I would say that's generally the case, isn't it? It's difficult to make a huge jump just like that. You might get the odd person, but yeah, over a period of time, just gradual little tweaks. And I think one thing you said there as well, everybody is hugely unique, and one thing will work for some and not another, and vice versa. And again, as you alluded to, it's so important for people to have an awareness for us to help them have more awareness of their strengths and what it is that they're good at, that their preferences, all those sort of factors, that personality and how that interacts with the way they behave on a day-to-day level. Massively important is the self-awareness piece.
Massively, isn't it? Everything begins with awareness, because once you see more, you can't unsee that. And once you know that about yourself, then you've got a choice, haven't you, to either stay the same, but you know you're making that decision, or change. And, often people will make a change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of actually doing something different and taking the leap.
Yeah, and also as well, you find quite a lot of people are trying to live a life for somebody else as well, aren't they? Or for the wrong reasons, and that goes on to cause some issues.
Absolutely. And, you find that, often when I meet people, it's like they really excelled in one area of their life but at the cost of something else, or they've sort of morphed into their roles, but they're not sure who they are anymore. And they want to uncover that version of themselves that used to, to have more fun, or that used to kind of like get out of bed excited about the day. So at any point in life, we can have, like a check-in. I would obviously talk about a mental fitness check-in, and you would talk about a mental toughness check-in. But we encourage people to stop and have a think. Where are you at now in your life? Is this where you want to be? And if it's not, how can we help you get to where you want to be? Or to have more of what you want, because life is full of responsibilities as well. We all have things we have to do in our day, but it's about how can we have more of what we want.
So on that theme as well about responsibility, I would say probably the vast majority of the listeners will be the highly committed, the motivated person. Do you want to just talk about the importance of downtime and self-care for that type of person?
Yes, massively, because it's so important, isn't it? We know that. It's not clever. It's not rocket science. It's not something that people don't know about. But knowing something and doing something's very, very, very different. Very different. And that's sometimes why people come for help, because they know, sometimes people know what they need to do, but they're not putting it into practice for themselves. So it's very important. So again, going back to my therapy, my occupational therapy role, but also my mental fitness role, time off supports time on. Our capacity, our performance capacity is completely dependent upon being able to pace ourselves. We know it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. If you want to achieve something, you put things the time in, and little by little, a little becomes a lot. But in order to do that, we have to pace ourselves. We have to create a balance, don't we, so that we can perform all the different roles we've got in our life. We can go all Tasmanian devil on something and just go gung-ho, but it's not really sustainable. And what we have to do is we have to create goals or habits that help us get what we want and help us achieve what we want, that are sustainable. Because how many people start something new? It might be like a healthy eating regime or a workout regime, and then a month later it's not sustainable. You've gone back to the old thing. It has to be sustainable. And so I find myself talking to people an awful lot, and I bet you do too, about pacing yourself, what's reasonable, just like that just right challenge. What's enough of a challenge to affect the change you want, but it's not going to be so tough to do that you won't sustain it. And we also know that, I want people to be out of office thrivers as well. I want people to see more people getting out there and having fun and doing things that you love whilst you achieve whatever goals you have. Going back to that, here for a good time, not for a long time. But also, it's a really, really important, we know that sleep's our superpower. So if we want to replenish and refresh ourselves physically and cognitively, we need to sleep. So that's the first thing. And sometimes people who are very driven by being a finisher completer or highly driven towards achieving their goals, it can come at the cost of rest. The thing I want to say is that there's many, many types of rest. If you think about it, I think sometimes we assume rest equals sleep. But if you think about it like this, I often ask myself, what kind of rest do I need? Because when I'm being really action biased, I'm a very action biased person. I'm always pushing towards my goals. I need physical rest, but actually sometimes, and already that I talk a lot, I'm using a lot of words. I'm a typical extrovert. I'm opportunistic. I'm optimistic. I talk a lot. I do a lot. Sometimes we need to stop using our words. Sometimes we need social rest. It could be that we need spiritual rest and replenishment. We need to connect with ourselves and make time just to kind of stop connecting with other people and connect with ourselves. It could be cognitive rest. There's so many types of rest. I've got a lovely article about that. And our job is to think, in terms of downtime, it's important to work out what kind of downtime you need. So the activity that you employ to support your downtime actually matches the sort of rest and downtime that is most of what you need, but also hits the spot for you, that you love it, it's important, you want to do it.
I love that. It's an interesting one. There's so many people out there will actually feel guilty, won't they, for that downtime, for the rest. So if you're one of them listening to this, ask yourself that question, do I feel guilty? And then, try and cut yourself a little bit of slack, because we all do need it.
Absolutely. Sit in your own support seat for once. We're very good. I think if you're high performance focused, you're probably going to be like, you sit in the cheap seats. You're kind of like, when you don't do well, you're hurling, criticism at yourself and judging yourself and tell yourself you've got to work harder, or sitting in a place of, high expectation where, anything less than the best is not okay. It's really exhausting. And you know what? I train my best when I take time off and recover, and then I'm absolutely chomping at the bit and really excited to get back in the pool or back on my bike or back, run shoes back on again. So yeah, it's very important. And actually what I'm asking all of you to do is sit in your own support seat. What would you be saying to someone that you care about who looked exhausted and tired, and you wanted them to do well? You wanted to give them some good advice so they could really excel. What advice would you give them? And, write a letter to yourself or have a word with yourself about what you're going to do to take some of that good advice you'd give other people on board for yourself.
I love that. Some nice advice there. In order to wrap this up then, so can you just basically, give the listeners 3 takeaways from our conversation? If you can narrow it down to 3.
Yeah. Right, let's have a think. Oh my goodness, where do we even start? Okay, let's have a think. Right, so I'm going to go for Mars bars. We'll start with Mars bars. Mars a day helps you work, rest and play. So some of you might be too young to remember that actually was an advert, but it was an advert for chocolate, Mars a day. And for me, I love, it's muddy feet and rosy cheeks for me. If I'm outdoors stomping around, getting some downtime, that is really, really supportive to me. So I guess what I'm saying is this is about nurturing your well-being, right? It's something we all need, because if you really are in it for the long haul and you really want to thrive with your goals or with your life, you really, really need to take some time to nurture yourself. There's a lovely, if you Google 5 steps to well-being, it's a link to an NHS resource that talks about 5 different things you can do to nurture your well-being. They're very simple things. It's about taking time to learn, taking time to help others, taking time to be active, be in the outdoors, mindfulness. It's the things you might expect, but it's really, really nice. And what I would say to people is take some time. We're very busy in our lives, but please, Polly prescription, 30 minutes, 3 times a week, if that's all you can do for yourself, to top yourself up, to make sure you're not depleted. That's definitely got to be one of them. What else can we say? We've got to say something about taking action, don't we? Because I guess that's one of the things that we've been talking about. So what would we say about taking action? What kind of takeaways have we got from here? For those of you that are action biased, what, we weren't actually designed to be multitaskers. It's a myth. Multitasking is a concept that was created to describe how computers operate. They're meant to multitask. We're meant to unitask. So if I can just say one thing, just prioritize one thing that you really, really want. Give that your full attention. There is a great book, you'll have read it too, David Charlton, about the one thing. I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but it really focuses on that concept of, not getting distracted by shinies, all your other great ideas can sit in the waiting room. David Charlton and I have a wonderful business coach who taught us lots about, the waiting room's a great place to store all your other great ideas, but just stay focused on the one thing you want. Have moonshot goals, dream big, but for goodness sake, act small, focus on the one thing and give it your full attention. And give yourself, I call it high impact activities. The 3 things that you can do in any one week that's going to help you get the most success towards that goal, that thing you want to achieve, that training you want to do. So that's definitely my second one.
Second one, I think that was about 5 points there, isn't it?
I'll just say something else as well. I'll say one more thing, and this relates to mindset. You know what? There's always going to be somebody out there with a bigger boat. Comparison is a thief of joy. Get your blinkers on and focus on yourself. Focus on where you're at and your progress and your development. Focus on where you're at and the next thing you need to achieve. And just let everybody else do what they're going to do. That's fine. It's good. But just focus on yourself and think about the mindset that you need to have to support that, and have a word with yourself. Write it down.
Brilliant. No, I love it. Where can the listeners find you if they want to reach out to you and ask any questions?
Great question. So I'd love it if people did want to get in touch, and even if you just want to comment, you might have a different perspective to me, or you might agree with something I've said. You might have found something helpful or thought-provoking, or you might just want to share something, a strategy or a top tip. So get in touch with me if you have any comments to make. So you can email me, and that's polly@adventurouscoaching.com. And other than that, I'm on social media and the places you'd expect. So you'd find me under Adventurous Coaching. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram are the main places that you'll find me. Get in touch and say hi. And keep a lookout, because I'm going to be... I'm developing at the moment my mental fitness coaching system into an online course, and I'll be launching that in May. I'll be creating the mental fitness clan, and I want to help people pack their mental fitness kit bag with the strategies and tools that they need to have an awesome, adventurous life.
Fantastic. So, yeah. We'll have to keep our eyes open for that one. And absolutely. All of those bits of details there, your contact details, I'll pop into the show notes.
Fabulous. Yeah, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak and to have that kind of exposure to your awesome clan. So thanks very much for inviting me here today to speak.
Yeah, and a big thank you for your time as well. It was fascinating, really interesting. So yeah, thank you. It was great to chat with Polly. I felt it was an important topic, mental health, and not something that I've covered recently. The facts are that we all have mental health. And as Polly alluded to, our mental health runs on a continuum from where we may have or may suffer from poor mental health up to positive mental health. And Polly offered some great reminders and insights, which I'm truly grateful for. Things happen to us, life events, relationship difficulties, performance pressures, financial difficulties. It might be in sport that you've been released from a club, or again, you might have money problems. Many things do happen to us day in, day out, and they can slowly, bit by bit, impact on our mental health. It's important for me to help you recognize also that the mentally tough aren't immune from mental health challenges either. Yes, they're better able to cope with events, with poor performances and difficult days, but they are susceptible to poor mental health. Again, if situations become overwhelming and are continuous over a period of time. Personally, I regard myself as mentally tough, and my scores from the MTQ Plus psychometric would back that up. But at different times in my life, I know I have struggled for periods. For example, going back 14 years ago, my wife died. And then over the next 4 to 5 year period, we lost 4 other close loved ones. This naturally had an impact. It was a pretty difficult time. More recently, I'd say I've been guilty of working too many hours. That coupled with a few difficult months where our youngest son's picked up illness after illness, and we've had COVID as a family, it's been interesting. And it's so easy to be knocked off course, and your subsequent behaviours can change and may not be helpful. So from these times, certainly one of the lessons that I've learned is to be kind to yourself. It's possible to be self-compassionate, to cut yourself some slack, and to give yourself some opportunities, some time to regain your energy. Being mentally tough doesn't mean that you can keep going and keep going and keep going. We all have our breaking points. We all do need to recharge our batteries from time to time. Without doubt, a mentally tough person is better able to deal with these daily stressors, with these challenges. However, if you don't have self-awareness, you aren't going to be able to help yourself. So if you're self-aware and mentally tough, you can certainly go on to make some smarter choices, which research also backs up. So as we approach this Easter period, I'd like you just to take a step back and consider where your mental health is right now. So on a scale of 1 to 10, are you on a 10 with positive mental health, or are you lower down that scale where your mental health isn't so good right now? And again, over Easter, if you do need some time to replenish, why not give yourself it? Or at least take some of Polly's advice on board. You'll also find our Facebook group is a supportive community too, where there are opportunities to support each other and to prioritize our mental health in the way that I've set it up. So please do join us in the Sports Psychology Hub Facebook group if you'd like to get involved. I hope you have a great Easter weekend and a great week ahead. If you enjoyed this episode of the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast with David Charlton, do check out my website, sport-excellence.co.uk, and my online sports psychology resources. The Sport Excellence website has essential resources for anyone looking to build their own mental toughness or the mental toughness of their athletes or teams, or if you want to achieve peak performance more often or optimal functioning. The Sport Excellence website has everything you need to keep moving forward and thrive. So go on, head over to sport-excellence.co.uk to find out more.